Hello, everybody. Welcome to another day of Charm Chats and Happily Ever After Sprints. We are coming to the end of the month, but we've had a chance to talk to fantasy romance authors all month long, and we do have a few more left as the month finishes out, talking about fantasy romance and playing some games and spending some time writing. I'm Shannon, writing under the pen name of SD Huston, and you're here on my YouTube channel where I publish content about writing, my self-publishing, and do weekly writing sprints. I'm also part of the Self-Publishing Tips and Tricks podcast with Ben Pick from Running to Write and Morgan Lee, and I'm the founder and conference chair of the AuthorTube Writing Conference, which is now heading into its third year. And this was our busiest week that we just finished up because we did 3 rounds of proposal reviews. And we finally did come to a first list of people to reach out to and actually sent those emails out today. So if you have applied for the AuthorTube Writing Conference, make sure you check your inbox. There's a few that have gone out today. The next couple ones will go out over the next week or so. Besides what I do here on YouTube, I'm a fantasy romance and YA fantasy author with a passion for writing about broken characters who face adversity to become better versions of themselves. And there may or may not be a dragon, but there's always love to find. And so today I am joined by Tammy Lunt, who writes under the pen name of TJ Bell. I didn't get a chance to tell you, I'm a bit tone deaf, so I don't always know how to say words, or I don't pronounce them all the way right. So I have to make sure I do that. But let me put up the video to you. Well. So we are going to learn a little bit about her book, and I have that too. I started reading it and get to tell you, but I just started to read Hard to Reject. Oh. So we're going to learn a little bit about this book, and actually, yeah, that's the right one. Yeah, okay, sorry. I had another book in my head, but this is the one I was thinking of. Okay. We're going to play a fantasy romance game and, of course, do a writing sprint. So I'm going to do Tammy's bio. TJ Bell is the naughtier alter ego of romance author Tammy Lund, although you should really totally read Tammy Lund's books, too, because they are really, really good. TJ Bell writes fantasy and paranormal romance all the time. Her heroines are tough, even if they are broken, and her heroes tend to have a heart of gold under all that alpha. When she isn't writing snarky, steamy books, TJ Bell likes to take long walks on the beach with a tall glass of wine. Oh, wait, wrong bio, but still true. TJ Bell lives in the sometimes beautiful state of Michigan, USA, where the weather is glorious approximately 30% of the time, with her even more snarky husband, snarky in training, and progressively impressively teenage daughter, and her dog, Kaya. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Okay. Who wants to know if it's dinner time yet? Yes. They have a way of telling that. Welcome to my channel, Tammy. Is there anything else that you would like to say and, say hello to the people who are here?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me, Shannon. No, that was great. That summed everything up. It's funny because I had my first author name bio is pretty sparse and unexciting. So apparently I just needed to start a second pen name to have an interesting bio.
That alter ego did it. It loosened you up to have that interesting bio. No. My husband and I, we came up with alter egos, I think, the first year of our marriage so that we could have, here's the silly, crazy side. So, right. If something happens like that, then we blame it on them.
Nice. Oh, I should do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been married for a really long time, but there's, might as well start. Why not?
always time to do it. You're a story writer, so you can do it anytime.
Exactly.
I would say hello to Leslie. Came in already. Happy Friday. Welcome.
Hi.
Friday is not a day I normally stream, so our people may trickle in and out because they're not used to me being on Fridays. But yeah, so if you guys have any questions for Tammy, you are welcome to drop them in the chat at any time. Please put a Q in front of it if you can think of it at the time to put a Q in front of it, because I know I always forget too. And we will ask the questions. We're about to move into the question and answer period, but that doesn't mean that's the only time we can answer questions. So you can ask questions anytime throughout the time that we're here today. So the first question I like to ask all the authors who've come on is, what drew you to write in the fantasy romance genre?
It was kind of an accident. I've been writing paranormal romance right from the get-go. I write contemporary romance and paranormal, and I have been for about 10 years. And when I finally got around to deciding to create this second pen name, I still wasn't really thinking fantasy. I mean, I kind of was, because I like reading fantasy and I love watching fantasy movies and series and things like that. But I didn't really think I was a fantasy writer at first. And so after I started writing this pen name, I started sorry, I'm trying to think of how I did this. I started working on the Farewell series, which is Hard to Reject, is the third book in that series, but it was actually a shifter series at first. Like wasn't even like there's fairies in it, but when I first started writing it, they weren't fairies. I was actually going for witches.
So witches and werewolves instead of fairies.
Yeah. And then it just like fairies for some reason just kept like the idea of fairies and what they could do and going into another world just kind of kept coming back. So I like basically rewrote the beginning of the first book, and then suddenly they're going into a different world, and I mean all the rules were different, and I was like, okay, apparently I'm writing a fantasy now. So, and I mean it's fantastic because you can like you literally get to create the world rules. Like, you know, in paranormal, I mean, obviously you have shifters and witches and all the other different types of creatures, but you still are based in this world to some extent, right? But if you move into a different world, you literally get to create all the rules. So it's really fun. I mean, it's a lot, but it's fun.
I think it's why I like writing epic fantasy romance, because I don't want to write what's happening now.
Yeah.
Like if I set it in urban contemporary times, then you still have streetlights and cars and cell phones and the internet, and they all have a certain way that they're supposed to work. And I like making stuff up.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I completely agree.
I was thinking when I was thinking earlier that I was thinking the wrong book. No, okay. So I haven't started reading Hard to Reject because that's book 3. I'm still in book 1.
Oh, okay. So book 1 starts in this world.
Yes.
But then they're going to move over to spoiler alert.
And we haven't got there yet. We are. He just took her back to his apartment above the bar and protecting her there, thinking that he needs to go back and find out what's going on.
Yep, but he's got a lot of moral dilemma going on that he's got to get through first.
Which I think Hard to Reject would also work for that book, because he is denying her and denying her and denying her, but he's still attracted to her.
So truthfully, I'll just tell you how this whole series came about. I actually got invited to write in a shared world for rejected mates.
Oh.
So there was no other criteria except rejected mates. All the books had to be rejected mates. So that's how I came up with book 1. So that's why the titles all have reject in them somehow. And so I wrote book 1, I wrote book 2. By the time I got to book 3, I was actually kind of struggling to make it a rejected mate theory, but also, which it is to some extent. It's not as blatant, I guess, as what a lot of rejected mate fans want. But I also realized that it was totally not a paranormal book, and all the covers for that shared world that I was working in were all paranormal covers. The man chest looks like a shifter, and I was like, it wasn't working for the storyline that like the overall plot that I had going on with this series. And I was like, I didn't feel like I was reaching the right audience. I mean, I think paranormal fans would love these books also, because they've got the wolf shifters and there is a lot of paranormal aspect, but it really was becoming fantasy, and I wanted to reach the fantasy audience, and they're not going to pick up a paranormal looking book for the most part.
Yeah.
So plus the marketing is, it's just a little bit different. So I totally recovered the whole series just a couple months ago, actually.
Well, Katie came in and she said, pretty cover.
Thanks. So all the names for the first 3 books are all something to do with rejection, but now book 4 is actually going to be completely different titles.
Perfect enemy.
Yes. Yep.
Could be a perfect rejected enemy.
Yeah. It could be. And I could work that in there, but now I'm like so focused on this world that they're in, that the rejection part, I'm like, whatever, I don't, if it happens, it happens.
Yeah, but there's also some titles of books you read it and you're like, I'm not really sure how that title fits, but okay, I'll go with it. So when you said that, so I'm not actually familiar with the rejected mates trope. I don't think I've ever read anything like that before. So can you explain that a little bit?
Yep. Yeah. So basically it can be pretty broad, obviously, with everything in romance, right? You can kind of play with it, but generally especially when you look at the shifter world, I think I don't really know if this is true. I'm going to completely make this up, but I think that it probably started in the shifter world. And there's a lot of fated mates tropes going on in the shifter
I've read
world.
a lot of those.
Yes, exactly. So the idea is that even though you're fated mates, one of them rejects the other for whatever reason. And it's usually not because they want to. It's always because I'm the alpha and you're not the right, my leader says I can't mate with you, or I can't even think of any others. And I've written several rejected mates books.
So it's usually the male.
Nope, it can't. Can be both. It can be either one. It doesn't really matter. But it's whoever gets rejected thinks, it's a personal affront, right? Like, oh my God, they don't love me. They don't want me. I thought this was going to be the one. And they aren't doing it because they don't love them and they don't want to be with them. They're doing it because there's some other external thing going on that's forcing them to do it. So then the whole story is how they come back around to realizing he or she, whoever is doing the rejecting, has to overcome whatever this external issue is so that they can be together. But of course they keep clashing and getting together anyway, even though they're not supposed to, right?
Well, I mean, in the one that I'm reading, they've only come together at that first time.
Very beginning.
So far.
Yep.
Yeah.
So she's a secret fairy princess, and he was sent to protect her, basically, because she has these enemies that she doesn't even know about. But and this is kind of an overall theme in this whole world, is he's a wolf shifter, she's a fairy, and they are not supposed to have interpersonal relationships. They're just supposed to work together, period. No interpersonal relationships. So that's where, and he's a very moral guy. He's very, always following the rules kind of person. So he's obviously has fallen in love with this woman. He hasn't admitted it to himself yet, but so it's his constant internal struggle that I should not have these feelings. This is not acceptable. This is not the way that I've been raised and I've lived my whole life. So, and she's been hidden away. So she's not exposed to all the quote unquote normal stuff in their world. Right. So she's like, why is this such a big deal? Like, I don't understand why you think that we can't be together. So there's lots of that conflict going on too, because she truly doesn't even know why it's a big deal to him.
Yeah. Well, and I think at the point that I'm in the book, I feel like he's known that he's been in love with her I think he mentioned that he fell in love with her, or he was first attracted to her when she got married.
Yep.
Or she said she was going to get married to her ex-husband.
Yep.
But at this point, he hasn't really explained it to her.
Yep.
That he can't be with her because he is supposed to be a warrior. Or I think he's just getting to that conversation right now.
Yeah. So. I think it just starts. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's going to be like, psh.
And she's still taking it as a rejection at this point.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Which I totally understand. I would feel the same way in her position.
Yep. So. I know. Like, wait a second. I just had the best sex of my life, and now you're saying no. We have to go back to being platonic, just in the blink of an eye.
And then her husband cheated on her, so she just feels like, and that's the title, right? Twice rejected or something, or twice shy, or
once rejected, twice shy. Yep.
Yeah.
So really, it should have been twice rejected, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could work that way too. But yeah, there is that theme of rejection. Definitely, I feel that. Which I don't get the like mates vibe at this point. They've talked about it. He's thought about it in his point of view. He's thought about how people have been mated, but it's never been a werewolf and a fairy. So, yeah.
And that'll become bigger and bigger as you read the book.
Okay. So does the book, does it stay with those two points of view? I mean, not the book, the series stays with those two.
No, it does not. And so,
it doesn't.
And I know that's not, totally common in fantasy. But yeah, all the books feature a different couple falling in love. But
I've been seeing more and more of that. So I think
good.
And my debut series into fantasy romance, because I have a fantasy trilogy that I have published already, but my debut into fantasy romance, my first 3 books all happen there at the same time. They're brothers. And so their stories overlap and intersect. And so, and it's each of 3 different couples. And then when I'm planning is that there's a 4th brother, but he's kind of like way like taking himself out of society completely. And these 3 couples are going to come into like another series after the series. That will be linear. So the first one's non-linear, it could be read in any order. Mm-hmm. But the second part will be them trying to get the brother and the overall curse that's on all of them broken for the land and everything. So we'll be in 6 points of views when we get to that series. So it's going to be interesting. But I've had as many as 5 points of view in a story before.
Oh my gosh. That's yeah.
It's a lot to keep track of. Yes.
It is.
It's like,
It
okay,
is.
this storyline, this storyline, this storyline.
Right. Yep. And all the different personalities.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, it's a lot. But luckily writers all have a lot of different people talking in their heads all the time.
Yeah.
So
All the
we're used to it.
Yep, exactly. So let's see. You have a couple of different settings in the series between contemporary reality and you called it feral.
Yep.
Okay.
Or feral. I call it feral.
Feral.
Yeah.
Okay. You also mentioned to me that the series first started as a Wolf Shifter story. I think you kind of you talked about the rejected mates, but and then evolved to include fairy. You've kind of already talked about that already. Because you wanted to be witches. What was that turning point for you that you're like, this has to be fairy and not witches?
That's a good question. It was more to do with like the heroine in my head. I kept picturing Liv Tyler from Lord of the Rings, and I couldn't get the image of her. Like, she's so elegant and she's so regal and like I just kept going back to that. Like, in my head, that's what she looks like. And sort of, because my heroine actually has red hair, but other than that, she just like has that image. And I couldn't get it out of my head. And I was like, okay, that's not a witch. She's a fairy. What? I mean, why don't I just start writing fairies?
And then I know I've seen back and forth like fairy Faery and just fae Fae. Did you have a thought of like which one should you use? Yeah.
Honestly, it totally came down to, I think it looks prettier with the FAE instead of the FAIR. So that was literally the only reason.
No, I like it too. That too. But like in my story, I have fae, but they're just all fae, Fae. So not with the RY, but
gotcha.
I don't know if I even thought about that. I don't think I ever thought about whether or not if I should have one or the other. But I was like you, like the AIRY. I automatically put that one out. I was like, I saw that, and I was like, no, okay, we go on. All right. So the next book in the series is Hard to Reject, which comes out soon. Do you want to tell us about the new addition to the series?
Sure, the one that's up on the screen. Yes. So this one it comes out on, I think it's March 12th. Pretty sure it's the 12th. So 2.5
You got it. It's March 12th.
Okay, good. I didn't have my calendar open. I was about to reach over and open it. This is the third book in the series. This one is entirely based in the world of Pharaoh. Like, they don't go over to the human world. However, the heroine actually, literally in the first chapter, falls through. There's a veil between the human world and Pharaoh, and only magical creatures can go through it. However, the Fae and wolves are supposed to be not allowed to go through it. Like, they're not supposed to leave their world to go to the human world. So this fairy just falls through the veil into Pharaoh, like, not, just nobody knew she was gone, and nobody knew what she was doing over in the human world. And she literally tumbles through, and she's in labor. She's 9 months pregnant. She's about to have a baby. So this healer, whose name is Tate, just happened to be in the vicinity at the time when she fell through, and he's like, holy crap, there's a pregnant woman here. And so he's trying to help her over to they don't have hospitals, they call it the facility, is their where their healers do all their stuff. So he's trying to get her to the facility so he can help her give birth. And she has complete total amnesia. She has no idea that she's even crossed worlds. She doesn't even realize she's pregnant. She's like, I've been trying to figure out why I keep having all these pains. And he's like, you're about to have a baby. She's like, I'm what? Like, she completely has 100% amnesia, everything. She doesn't know her own name. So he takes her to the facility, and she gives birth. Everything's fine, except she gives birth to a wolf child, which is not supposed to happen in this world. Yeah. Remember I said they're not supposed to have interpersonal relationships. And this has never happened before. So he's like, holy shit, who's the father? And she's like, I have no idea. I don't even know my own name. I don't know what's going. Like, she doesn't know anything. So the book is, the Tate, her name, the queen actually ends up giving her a name because she doesn't know her name. So she names her Celeste. So Celeste and Tate, the book is about their growing attraction to each other. But of course, and the reason this one is still hard to reject is because she keeps coming on to him because she doesn't think like she's not in love with anyone else because she doesn't remember anyone else. So she keeps coming on to him, and he's like, you obviously have someone else in your life because you just had a baby.
Baby daddy. It's a baby daddy.
And she's like, but I don't feel like she keeps insisting that if I really felt in love with this person, I would feel something, even if I don't have memories. So he's trying to resist her, but he's of course falling in love with her too. And at the same time, trying to help her get her memories back so she can figure out who the baby daddy is.
Yes.
So there's all that going on. And then on top of that, there's like a kind of a brewing war in the background going on because now the Fae and wolves have always relatively gotten along, but in the first book, you're going to find out somebody puts a rift between them and kind of works to convince them to hate each other. So now there's this whole, they aren't getting along, and there's lots of just
and that's happened fights. In the 40 years that they've been on. Okay.
Yes. So this is all kind of, and so like the wolves are potentially looking at forming their own kingdom and stepping away. And it's a big deal because they work very closely together. And I mean, you know, together they work really well, but when you separate them, are they going to survive kind of thing? So there's all that going on in the background. And on top of, and her memories tie totally 100% into what's going on in the background, but she doesn't know it yet, of course. So that's what's, so it's lots of build up and drama and then there's this kind of big shocking reveal toward the end of the book. It's going to lead into the next book.
Yeah, no, it sounds interesting. I can't wait to finish the one I'm on. So even though if each book is set of different set of characters, do the other characters come in?
Yes, they come. Okay. Yep, they're involved. Like the two main characters that you're reading about right now are very, very heavily involved in this one. The second book takes place, the two characters in that book, something happens to them at the end of the book you're reading. And so they kind of go off away from society, which I'm not going to give too much away. And so a lot of that book takes place with really just the two of them because they both have a whole lot of emotional baggage and they need to figure some things out. So you don't really get a lot of other characters until toward the end of that book. But this third book, like everybody's heavily involved. Like it's all happening right in the middle of the castle in the village, and you get so for people like me, I love series where the former characters keep coming back. And so that's probably why I'm writing it this way.
Yeah, I do too. I like it that way. And I would not suggest a non-linear story like the one I'm writing. It's lots of fun, having the brothers interact with each other. Mm-hmm. But then I had to remember, okay, he said this in his book and it was on this day because I have it set by day. So I know, and I'm like, oh, I'm a discovery writer. So I get to the point of like, okay, why would he say that day? What led up to that point?
Yep.
I mean, I have ideas of what the other brothers were doing, and I was pretty on par, but I was like, that really should have come a day later. So I have to like move my timelines around, and I'm in the second book right now. But yeah,
and that's the hardest part. If you've you're 3 books deep, and you're like, oh dang, I should have done XYZ, but I can't now.
The better way would have been to write all 3 books and then start to publish. But I hadn't published anything in over a year at that point. Oh, so God. I was like, I just get something out. I wanted to get something out. And plus I was running a Kickstarter on that first book. So I didn't publish it until January, but I ran the Kickstarter last June. So
Yep.
But
so it's funny you're talking about the linear timeline, because this book, Hard to Reject, there is one scene that overlaps a scene from the second book.
Oh, the second book. Okay.
Yeah. And so when I sent it to my editor, I had a note that said, from this point through page whatever, we cannot change anything because it's a scene from the last book.
Yeah.
And she sent me back a note. She's like, I really appreciate you telling me that, because I probably would have made changes.
Yeah. Hello, RC. Thanks for stopping by. All right. Well, the next thing I'd like to ask you is, who is your favorite fantasy romance author?
I saw this question. You gave me at least a little warning about these, and I was like, oh, shit, how do I answer this? So
I default to like my most recent read sometimes.
Literally. So that's exactly what's happened. So I'm going to confess something here. I have never read Sarah J. Maas.
Oh.
So, because I know like that's the default, but I don't really have a reason other than and it's probably just because I'm an indie author, but I prefer reading the more, I don't want to say obscure, that's not the right word, but I like reading the less in your face popular stuff.
Yeah.
Because, well, first of all, like, I feel like I already have an opinion formed in my mind. I've never even read this book, right? Because if you go on TikTok, that's all you see, and Instagram. And so part of me is like, I'm a little afraid to read it because I already have preconceived notions.
Right.
So, but yeah, so my current favorites, based on what I'm reading right now, I literally just discovered, I hope I say it right, Jeffe Kennedy.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's Jeffe. So I don't know if it's Jaffe or Jeffy. And the book I'm reading is called Shadow Wizard. I'm literally reading it right now, and it is absolutely amazing. I mean, I'm only probably 4 chapters in, but it's just amazing. I love, love, love her writing style. I'm just completely sucked in by it. So I'm just super excited. And the 2 main characters start like the very first chapter fighting with each other, and I am a sucker for the enemies to lovers.
Oh yeah.
So I am so in love with this book right now. Who else would I say?
Which Sarah J. Maas book did you read?
I haven't read. That's what I'm
saying. You haven't?
Yeah, you haven't. Okay. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, and the other fantasy who is probably a little bit smaller that I'm totally in love with is Lisette. I think that's how you say it. Marshall.
Yeah.
She has a couple of fairy series that I've read one, and I'm reading I am in the middle of the second series right now. I haven't read her most recent. I think it's called Fae Isle. I haven't read that. I've been reading like older stuff, but totally loving it, like just devouring it. So
she's very active in the Tarot Discord, so I know her name from there.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So I have not read any of her books yet, but I should.
So I actually started reading her from the what are they called? The 1 day free events we do every couple of quarters or whatever. Like that's I was scrolling through the email. I was like, and I liked the cover, and I was like, I try that. I mean, what can I lose?
I might have her book already.
Right?
There's so many books on my TBR, but this month was already, I had 22 authors all together coming on the channel, and 2 of them I had read the books already. So I didn't have to worry about those 2. And her book just came out. So it came out as a Kickstarter, but I haven't got it yet. So didn't have to read her book. So that would take me down to 19 authors that I was reading their books.
Oh my gosh.
And then I was also supporting my friend's readathon. She does a Black Author Trooper readathon every February.
So how fun.
So I picked up like 4, 6, 5, somewhere in there, 4 to 6 books, somewhere I picked up in there. 2 of them overlapped with the authors coming on my channel already. So that was good.
Perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, my TBR is already like 20 plus books for the month. And I was like, yeah.
Right. And again, you're like, when am I going to get the actual writing in?
Yes. We're talking about that behind the scenes. I have not read. And no, yesterday, I had told you that how my author had messed up the time zone, right? Mm-hmm. Yesterday. So I told my husband when he got home, right? So yesterday I spent the morning reading her book, the beginning of her book, because I hadn't got to it yet. And then I had to jump in the shower before I got my son, and then came back, wrote some words, and then got ready for her live stream. And then when I found out that she wasn't going to make it because she had the wrong time, I thought, I'm going to go back to these words. And all those words I written were gone. So I told my husband, I said, my day was very unproductive. I said, the only thing I got accomplished was I put makeup on.
Oh, that's too bad. Like the document just disappeared?
Well, I have a wrist injury that will never heal because it's a tendon that doesn't have blood flow. And I heard it when I was in the military for 7 years. And so sometimes typing hurts. And so I went, there's an open source dictation program. It's online. You don't log in.
Yeah.
It does keep your last words. But since my wrist was hurting so much, I had typed a little bit in there, did some dictation, typed a little bit. And then I thought I copied it and pasted it into my document, and I didn't. And I had started another email in the same dictation program. And so I lost it. It was just gone. There's no way getting back. I tried to recreate it. I did say up later than I like to say up. And I got 601 of those words back out of like 1,800 or 1,600, somewhere in there. I don't remember what it was now, but I have it written down. But I'm going to look at it. I want to see all the words I lost.
Oh, God. That's so frustrating.
And I was like, man, I know this line. I wrote this line better.
Right? Don't you hate that?
Yes.
The best is when you're laying in bed or in the shower or wherever that you can't actually write anything down and you come up with the most perfect words.
Well, if I'm in bed, I always have my phone. So I've dictated into my Gmail.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So yeah.
I might have to start that because that seems to be when everything just starts flowing. Especially when I'm the most tired. Like I need to go to bed. I got to get up early in the morning. And then all of a sudden half a book comes to me.
Yeah. And I like doing it into the email because even if you don't send it to yourself, it's in your drafts. And if you do send it to yourself, now it's in your inbox and in your sent box.
Yep.
You don't lose it.
Yeah, that's smart. That's smart. So, I like it.
All right. Well, you did talk about the tropes. So that kind of leads into the next question. What is your favorite fantasy or romance trope and why?
Oh, well, I gave it away already. Enemies to lovers is definitely my favorite. It's just fun. I love the banter when they don't like each other, but really they do. And there's a lot of the tension. I totally love it. And I'm also a big, strong heroine supporter. I like my heroines to save themselves. I don't like the oh, poor me, everybody needs to save me kind of heroine. No flack, because there are lots of readers who love that, but I am not that reader. So I get really excited when the heroine is a badass. So, but yeah, enemies to lovers, it's always is my definite numero uno.
I'm right there with you. Same way. I love enemies to lovers, and I like my heroines to save themselves. So everything is driven by what it is that they need. And my characters always have something wrong. That's what it is in my bio, right? So I like broken characters who face adversity to make better versions of themselves. So my first one, she's constantly beat down by her mom and society, physically and mentally and emotionally. And she becomes, of course, a better version of herself. And so that works. And then my second one, she actually has a curse that doesn't allow her to move without killing people. She accidentally killed her mom with her magic. So she's decided she's a mermaid. So she goes to the sea witch instead of falling in love with a prince. And that's why she becomes human. So she goes to sea witch to find a way to break the curse on her magic.
Nice.
And of course she does fall in love with the king of the land where she has to go. But on
her terms.
On her terms, yeah. That one, I don't know how to classify. I'm in the middle of writing that book right now. And I'm like, I don't know how to classify this because I wanted all of them to be enemies to lovers, which they actually met each other like 25 years ago, but she saved him. So it's just a la like Little Mermaid. He was falling in the ocean and drowning. She saved him. Fell in love, like in that moment, it was more like, lust or whatever. But then she had to leave because her magic was coming to the front. She was going to kill him if she stayed there. So she had to leave him.
Right.
And he's been searching for her, but he hasn't been able to find her for 25 years. And he's a dragon. So he's a dragon shifter. So, and it's one of the brothers. And he's had to move on because he's under a curse himself. All the brothers are under curse. They have to marry over and over and over again. They never get to choose their wife.
Oh, so, my.
Yeah. So the curse chose her, but then she left. And when she left the land, then it broke his bond to her. So then he had to find it, he had to wait till the curse chose a new wife for him. So oh my God. When they see each other again, they remember that they love each other, but she's there to steal the sunstone in his kingdom to lead her to the next godstone, because these are the things that Sea Witch want in order to break her curse. And so she loves him, but she can't tell him because she's going to break his heart because she's and then of course he's falling more and more in love with her. And then she steals the sunstone and leaves him and doesn't even tell him why. And so they kind of become enemies, sort of. But, so I'm like, I don't know if I can still call this an enemies to lovers, because for the first half of the book, they're not enemies.
Right. So but then they have a falling out. So maybe it's more of a second chance.
Second chance. That makes sense.
Which is also an excellent trope.
Yeah, I should do that. Second chance. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm glad I talked it out with you, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to call it. Hi, Jocelyn.
And now I really want to read it. So,
that one, but I like my males to give the heroine her chance, her day, to prove who she is. Yep. But like this guy, he's just like too much of a pushover. I'm like, I don't like him. My critique partner, I wrote a chapter where I was trying to show another side to him, and she was like, I like this, but I'm not sure it fits. I'm like, you're right. So I've taken it out, and I said, you know what? He's going to say this nice guy Like he's attracted to her, but he's not gonna do anything with her. She's never been able to move in her life. So now she can move. She wants to do all the things. Kiss, dance, shrug. She loves shrugging. She thinks this is really cool. And she wants to do more things with him, but he's like, no, because he's supposed to get married to another woman. The curse hasn't chosen her yet, but he doesn't think it's honorable to start anything with her when the curse is going to choose another woman, because it didn't choose her when he came across her.
Right.
Wow. So he's like this good guy. And I was like, I know what it's going to be. The switch is going to flip when he finds out that she ran off and stole from his kingdom. And that's when the other side of him is going to come out.
I like it. I mean, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
But he's been boring kind of right this whole time. He's a goody two shoes. He's too.
Right. He needs some kind of mean streak.
Yeah. I mean, he's a king after all. And I'm like, come on. He's had to marry a wife over and over again for 1,000 years. Something's got to be going wrong.
Yeah. There's got to be. Yeah. So they die, and he ends up picking a new one. Like, is that how it works?
Yeah. The curse for anybody out there who don't want spoilers for my books, don't hear it now. But the curse kills the wife in 20 years.
Oh, the curse kills her. Oh my God.
The curse chooses the wife and kills her in 20 years. And they've had some wives that were immortal creatures like the Fae.
Yeah.
It still kills them in 20 years. Yeah. So so the oldest brother, he's the one that the curse was made because of him and what happened between him and his love interest, and she cursed all of them. He kind of just disappeared. And now if they know when the curse chooses their next wife, because they feel like a band around their chest. And if they don't marry within 30 days, then they'll die. So they have to marry within that 30-day. It's a lunar cycle. Jeez. Or she has to leave the continent. If they leave, then the curse, the bond is broken. So the second oldest brother, the first book was with him, and he just became like, he's soft. He's just like way too soft. And he's like, loves all the women he's married. And he's got to a point at the beginning of his book, he's like, I'm done. I can't do this. And he secludes himself from society like his oldest brother did. Yeah. And once they seclude themselves for so long, they start turning into a dragon. They can't come back from that.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah. I love the book. I love it. So I just published it. It's we're not quite at 30 days yet on retailer platforms.
Oh, congratulations. That's awesome. Oh my God.
The women really get a bad deal. Yeah. All my women have their problems. And my third book, it's a fire fae who is born with no magic. And she's one of several princesses. And in her culture, the fire fae culture, fire fae and sun fae are under the season of summer, and they're dominated by males in that one. The winter season is dominated by females because it's 2 goddesses, and the summer season is 2 gods. And the other 2 seasons have a male and a female god, so it's more equality.
Got it.
So the summer season, fae, it's male dominated. She's one of I haven't figured out how many sisters she has yet, and just only one brother. So he gets all the attention. Her sisters get the attention. She's the one that's being put down basically because she's useless to the family because she has no magic. No magic. Yeah. So she learns how to be basically a ninja.
Oh, sweet.
And becomes a good fighter. And she goes around saying, and she stutters. So when she first joins the order to become a ninja, she says, a failed fire fae. So my husband and my son stutter, so I know all the things.
Oh, that's awesome. You know what? I totally love it when there's like things get woven into books that aren't like the characters aren't perfect. I mean, I know emotionally they're never perfect, right? Because that's the whole point is the growth, but all other quote unquote imperfections. Like I love it when there's something about them that makes, I don't want to say humanized because it's fantasy, but really humanized, like helps us to connect to them. I guess relatable. What I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Well, I have a thing with numbers where I constantly just add up numbers, divide numbers. I may not get the number actually right doing all that, but it's just something I've done since I was a kid. And I decided to give that to my main character in my book that just published. But she uses it as a way to control her anxiety.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so my readers, they wrote back to me. They're like, this is exactly what I do. And I was like, oh, well, I'm glad it came to that.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So I just do a numbers thing. I'm always adding stuff up or dividing. Usually it's adding, but I divide and multiply and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I used to teach college English and literature, and I hated doing any numbers out loud because like, you didn't do that right, Mrs. W. And I was like, I know, that's why I'm an English teacher, not a math teacher.
Right.
So, all right. Well, we've talked a lot. We do have our game that we're going to play. And I didn't get a chance to ask you if we're in fun and games. Two truths and a lie. Did you get your two truths and a lie put together? I totally forgot. And I meant to remind you, and I think I forgot.
I did.
You did? Okay, good.
And I got to find it, though. Where the heck is it? I came up with them. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay. All right. Yes, I do have. I came up with. I was like, "What the heck? How do I do this?" But then I got it.
How many did you come up with?
Huh?
How many do you have?
I have 3 total.
Okay.
So two truths and a lie.
Okay. So like the sets, you just have the one set?
Oh yeah, I do. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. So am I reading it to you, and you're going to guess which ones?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I occasionally co-write with an author friend who lives in Australia. And from my bio, I live in the US. And we have met in person one time. And when I was in high school, I wanted to be a published author. But by the time I started college, I decided that I had to major in something quote unquote normal. So I ended up with a liberal arts degree, because that's normal. And the Farewell series started out as a Rejected Mate series. And I had the brilliant idea to use rock songs as the titles, just switching out a single word with rejected, which now you know that that's obviously a truth, because we already talked about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of the idea, is that from talking to each other about our books, that we would know we might be able to give a good guess of which one's the truth and which one's the lies, right? The lie, the truth. So I'm going to say, I did see that you write with a partner. I don't know if she's from Australia. So I would, but I'm going to say, yeah, that one's true. And of course, the last one's true. So is it the middle one about the arts degree?
Yep.
Yeah.
So nope, not true. The first one.
Oh,
the
okay.
first one. However, what's not true is that we have never met in person. I do co-write with an author from Australia, but we have actually never met in person.
You had that addendum of
Yeah.
meeting in person. I thought that might be it. Oh, look at that. Katie had it right. Yay! I think the lie is the first one.
We are hopefully, actually, we're supposed to meet actually in June this year, because she's flying in for Inkers Con in Dallas. So we're going to try, I got to still book my stuff, so I'm going to try to go to Dallas for the week so we can hang out.
Cool. That's going to be so nice to be able to meet in person.
Yes.
Do you guys do like video conferencing?
You know, we've only done that a handful of times. We literally just converse back and forth through Facebook Messenger more than anything.
Gotcha.
So, which is kind of funny, because I'm like, at first I was like, why don't we text? And I'm like, no, it's easier on Facebook Messenger because you can be on the computer and, use both hands.
Yeah.
And then one time I accidentally FaceTimed her, and then I hung up, and she called back. She's like, why are you hanging up? I'm like, I didn't really mean to. I don't have makeup on.
That's cool. Well, that would be really great when you guys get to see each other. All right. Mine are a bit shorter, but okay. I have a character obsessed with the stars.
Okay.
I have a character obsessed with numbers. I have a character obsessed with jewelry.
I'm going to say numbers we know is true. I think jewelry is true because they're dragons, so they hoard things. So stars is the false one.
It's the last one.
Oh, dang.
So the series I'm writing are ice dragons, so they're a bit different. But my iron dragons are the ones that hoard. But we don't have iron dragons in this series yet. As far as most of my readers know, there aren't any other dragons but ice dragons. So
spoiler alert.
Yeah. And any of my readers, if they're watching this, they wouldn't know about the one about the stars, because that is in the book I'm writing right now. See, Leslie said 3 is the lie. I think 2 is a lie. Oh, Katie. But yeah. And someone said that reminded them of Bridgerton. Who is it? Oh, I was my critique partner.
Your dragons reminder of Bridgerton?
No. So my main character, actually both of them are obsessed with stars. So she's obsessed with him because she's only ever seen them once when she was allowed to go to the surface, and that was when she saved him from drowning. But after that, they put her into what she calls a little palace because she's a princess, and and they weigh her down with weights because she can't move. So her sister paints stars all over her room, and that's the only way she sees stars, and she gets the stories of the stars. And so, he's obsessed with stars, and he's got an observatory. And I have one scene where I really love it, but they start talking, like they're at the time, they're like remembering that they have different duties. And so they're trying to like, why are we actually hanging out? Because I'm going to steal from you is what she's thinking. And he's thinking, I'm going to be marrying someone else. And then they start talking about the stars, and they start talking about the different stories that go with the constellations and what overlaps and what doesn't overlap. But you know how we have like different stories in the constellations. And I think it's interesting how different cultures have different stories for the constellations. So I kind of brought that. I love that.
That's cool. I love it.
But yeah, when she read the chapter where he was, because it was a chapter where his best friend's like, do not talk about stars. She's like, this reminds me of Bridgerton.
Oh my God.
Wasn't it Bridgerton? Oh, it was the not the Bridgerton, the offshoot series, the Queen.
Oh yeah, Charlotte.
Charlotte, yes, that offshoot series, because the king there was into stars.
Yep.
And I was like, I wonder if that influenced me, because I did watch. I binged that one day.
Yeah, that was a very sad and uncomfortable, but really, really good series.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. I enjoyed it. All righty. So now we are going to move into our 30-minute writing sprint. And Tammy brought a prompt with us. Let me take this off there. There you go. And the prompt for today is: modern day witch inherits a rundown bookstore in a city heart. Supposed to say the heart of a city, but I was running out of characters. The bookstore is a gateway to a hidden world of magical creatures. A mysterious vampire customer becomes a regular. And Katie, you might like this one because she writes about vampires.
Nice.
So, for everyone who's joining us, you can write with this prompt in mind, or you can write whatever you want. I mean, even Tammy, you can write whatever you want. You don't have to write the prompt if you don't want to. It's just there for anyone who would like the spark to write something but don't know what they want to write about. And or you can use this time to read or do chores or whatever else you want to do. It's 30 minutes, so we can spend that time however we want.
Nice.
All right, and we'll get started in 3, 2, 1, and go. And that is time. What did you do?
How many words did I get? What? 1,140 words.
Is that typing?
Yeah.
You're a
Yeah.
fast typer.
I am actually. Well, it's because
Oh.
well, we were talking about time. So it's born of having a very limited amount of writing time.
Yeah. Well, I was admin in the military, and I did that for 7 years, and then I worked for the Marine Corps as a civilian and did more admin for 3 more years before I got my degree and went off to become a teacher for a while. I've never gotten faster typing. Not never. They have like those games out there you can like play and it's supposed to make you faster, and all it did was raise my anxiety because I couldn't get any faster.
Yeah.
So I was like, and last year was the first year that I tracked everything all year long. So I tracked what project I was working on, what part of the writing process, whether it was brainstorming, drafting, editing, revising, how long I wrote for, and for how long I wrote for, and then how much should I actually write. And at the end of the year, I looked at my average, and I wrote an average of 8.9 words a minute. So in admin, they're looking at 42 words per minute.
Oh my gosh.
Huge difference.
Wow.
So I think it's another reason why dictation works really well for me, because I think fast, but my fingers can't keep up.
Yep. So. Well, if I go back and read this, there's going to be 7 million typos. So.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Even when I'm typing, I try not to correct anything. I just type, but I just type slow. And maybe it is my injury in my wrist, because I did that my 3rd year in the military. So
oh my gosh,
it could that just hinders me. I don't know what it is. I also have a slight depth perception issues. It could be that, but I don't look at the keyboard when I type. So I was like, that can't be it. I've tried to figure it out over years. I don't know what it is. I just don't get any faster.
I mean,
I think the most I've written in 30 minutes was around 600 to 700 words, and that's when it was just like flowing out of me.
Yep.
But if I dictate, I can do double that in 30 minutes. So,
nice.
Yeah. So did you use this prompt, or did you work on something else?
I did. And I hope I can carry this on, because how long has it been? 2 years ago? I bought, or maybe 3 years, I started a paranormal rom-com series, or I thought I was going to start a series, and I wrote the first book, and I've not been able to, and I bought 2 covers. I was going to do a trilogy, I guess a trilogy. It was 3 witches, all best friends. And I wrote book 1, totally loved it. And I bought the cover for book 2, and I've started writing it like 3 times. I've never been able to finish it. Like, I can't figure out what I want this particular friend. I can't figure out where to go with her. And the cover it's paranormal rom-com. So it's a cartoon cover, but she's a witch and he's a vampire. So the name of it is Vino with a Vampire. And it's so obviously the hero has to be a vampire, and it has to have something to do with wine. And I haven't been able to figure it out.
This might be it?
Well, I'm thinking so, because that's why when we were talking about writing prompts before we, a couple weeks ago, I was like, well, let's try the witch and vampire thing, and let's see if this will trigger, because I have this totally cute cover that I love, and I really would like to write the story.
Yeah.
At least pay for the cover. So we'll see. I think the hardest part for me is with I feel like I'm pretty good at writing rom-com, but I have to be in the mood to write it.
Yeah.
And, and it just depends on all the other stressors in the world, whether you can just write funny.
Yeah, I can't write funny. I bought books on how to write funny. I still don't write funny.
No.
I'm always surprised when a reader says, "Oh, I thought this part was funny." I was, what part?
Right. Let me see if I can replicate that.
I've given up trying to write funny. I just write the character. I think sometimes I do write characters who they're coming from a very dark place most of the time. So
yeah. Yep. And you know what? Readers love that. So that might be the other thing too, is I'm like, okay, but all you see is readers love dark, and I think maybe that gets in my head.
There's readers for all kinds out there, for sure. I mean, dark fantasy romance has grown over the last year, but fantasy romance just overall has grown.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think it's going to have cycles, honestly.
Yeah, I think so. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I got distracted. I forgot I had this tab open. I have my computer set up now. I didn't know you could do this in Chrome, but I just figured this out like a month ago, where like, you know, if you have tabs open in Chrome and then you shut your computer down, you know, you close everything down like normal. And then when you come back and you open it up again, it pulls open all your tabs you had open before.
Oh,
So there's a function in Chrome that I was trying to find something else and I found it, and I don't know how to get to it now, but it was, you know, remember my tabs that were open last or something along those lines. So I had a tab open from yesterday when I was researching my author for yesterday. I think it's on her website or something, and it's a romantasy book con. And I'm like, they have it, and it's in Orlando, Florida, and I live in Florida. I'm like 6 hours away from there, but
oh my gosh,
I live in the Panhandle. But I'm like, I want to go. It's October. I want to go.
no
So I was
kidding.
like, I got distracted by looking at that because I was like, why is this tab open?
That's cool though.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I want to check that out and see who's going to be there. But, I did start brainstorming. It's hard for me sometimes to just like go straight into writing something because I actually think about things for a really long time in my head, but I do just write out, and I write out like, okay, if they do this and this could happen, but that if they do this, they have these choices, and if they do this choice, this is what happens. If they do this choice, this is what happens. That's my brainstorming.
Yep.
So anyways, I am trying, mine's not modern day, but I have a secret town in my world that is not everybody can get to. You have to know people to be able to get to this town. And I want to develop a series of, if I can write short, maybe novella length, short stories, but epic fantasy, romance, spicy, short story, small town. So, yeah, so I've seen like small town romances, and I've seen like small town romances, paranormal, that are set in contemporary world. So mine's gonna be epic. So, okay, but I'm still gonna have businesses and stuff. They're gonna have town. I know a little bit of how the town is set up and stuff like this. I was like, well, I could have one that's like she's called a witch, or I don't know. I don't have like per se witch is not a name in my story, but I have fae who have different things. So this one could be a fae that runs a bookstore in the heart of one of the quarters, because there's 4 quarters for the 4 different seasons.
Yep.
And I thought, but how does vampire come into this? Because I've developed the origin story of my first vampire. She shows up in the series I'm writing, but she was the first thing brought back so she's the first undead thing brought back by the only god who's still awake, which is the sun god. And she's a sun fae. And so when he brings her back, she's the opposite of everything of what she was. So like the sun is no longer good for her, right? So that's why she can't go out in the sun. But he did that to bring her back, to make her the most powerful thing on the earth that could protect his child that hasn't been born yet. So she's been protecting this child for hundreds of years. And so you come across her in the second book, but the third book's where she really, because the child is put into the I don't want to say too much. Never mind. For those who don't want to say it, I'll give it away. So anyway, so she's there. She's a protector. But I always had it in my head where that when she was released, that she would go and get her revenge. I knew her origin story, and basically she was a princess, and but she was also a failed fae, and the failed fae because the summer fae had been taken out, the winter fae. Now the time of my story, there are basically no winter fae left. Those are water and moon fae, and so they're almost all wiped out. And so, but moon fae can do curses with the blood, and so moon fae curse their blood. So every now and then they would have children born without magic, and so they're failed faes. So she's a failed fae, but she dies. So she finally gets an engagement. And he kills her on the wedding night, but he doesn't do it himself. He lets other people kill her, but they tragically kill her. So yeah. So she comes back.
Heck of a backstory.
So she's going to get her revenge. And so I've already got lots of story. I've written some of the chapters already, and written parts of it, but and I call that one Feast of the Blood and Broken. That would be my first dark fantasy romance.
Nice.
So
I mean, you've definitely set up the dark fantasy part well.
Yeah. But I thought, well, what if on her travels, when the sun fae or sun god brings her back to life and she's undead, on her travels, because my small town exists between the time that the sun god learns that he has this child he needs to protect and the time of these book series. So the small town's only in this like 800-year period. So I'm like, okay, there can't be any other vampires. She's the first vampire, and she's still protecting the child all this time. But I was like, well, what if? So I was like doing all these what ifs exercises. Yeah. So I was like, what if on her way to protect the child that she takes her first victim, or whatever, changes her first victim, turns her first victim, or something like that.
Yep.
She doesn't know what the heck she's doing. She only knows that she has this drive to feed herself, and regular food doesn't work. Yep. So I was like, that could be. And maybe that vampire, he's so different, or or whatever, that he goes to the secret town. He finds a way to get to the secret town. So he's just hiding out there away from the rest of the world that doesn't. And I see this small town as being like a haven for misfits and people who don't belong or don't feel they belong in the world.
Yeah, that's cool.
So,
I like that.
yeah.
I like that a lot.
So I was doing some brainstorming with this.
Hey, that's good. Hey, that's part of the process.
Yeah. Oh, Mama Maggie, hello. I can write comedic moments, but not comedy or satire. And I want to write both so badly. There are books out there. They just do me any good.
Yeah, it's hard.
The problem with writing dark comedy or satire also means the risk of getting canceled, because no matter how careful you are, someone will get really offended and try to cancel you.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you write fantasy and sci-fi, Mom Maggie, make it up. Make it as a vehicle that if someone knows what they're looking for, they might know what it is, but you're not directly, touching on that subject or whatever it is. That's what a lot of fantasy will do, though. There are vehicles for what's going on in society.
Yep.
I don't really like politics, so I don't do that. But
don't have the skill. Oh, that's too bad.
I've read several books on it, and you and me. So
I watch a lot of rom-com or like comedic skits to try to get into the zone to write rom-com.
Yeah.
I think just like your head, I feel like your head just keeps spinning in that same concept. And so if I sit down and write right away, it tends to be in the same vein.
So I think it sounds like to me like you kind of like you're able to internalize it really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I came to that conclusion several years ago. I was like, I don't have to think about writing a story. I just sit down and write a story, and a story comes out.
Yep.
I have to really, really think about comedy to try and get something out.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't think it should be this hard. This is just not something I internalize well.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Because you're right. Like, if you're thinking way too hard on comedy, it's gonna potentially fall flat.
Yes, and it does. I've tried. I've read things to my husband. He was like, "That wasn't funny." I do have to say there was one scene I did keep in my very first book, and I did have one reader tell me they thought it was funny. So I was like, okay, it did hit with somebody.
It's a win. That's all it takes.
I can harvest the tears of my readers really well, though. There you go.
I know. See, I'm not good at that. Like I have you know what? Maybe that's just like people are just different, right? Because that's where I struggle is the dark moment. Like, no, I get to a point where I'm like, I can't go any. It's too hard. I can't go. I don't want them to be in this much pain, and I end up like pulling it back. Where probably it would, attract more readers if it was a little darker.
I think you're set on trying to do a dark fantasy here. Dark fantasy.
I know, and I don't know why, because I probably won't, because I tend to like the comedy gets woven in even when I'm not writing rom-com. Like there's a ton of humor in every single one of my books, and I don't think I could do dark anyway. That's okay, because everybody's right. Yes. There's you need authors for every genre. So
yes, and I think that as long as you're making the reader feel something, whether it's a laugh or a cry, then you've done your job.
Agreed. So agreed.
Well, before we wrap up the chat, can you tell us a little bit about what you're working on next and when it might come out?
So I am still working on the Farrell series. I do have 4 covers purchased, so I have tried at least 4 books. But crazy enough, I randomly wrote a novella much short, like 20,000 words, so really short, that is actually going to come out in either June or July this year. So it's going to be, Hard to Reject is 3. This is going to be 3.5. And it's just going to be a quick, it's actually part of a different world, but I'm going to tie it back to this one. And then the next major book in this series is called A Perfect Enemy. And I'm probably a third of the way through that book. I stopped, I might be halfway through. I've made a pretty big dent in that book, but then there were a lot of revisions to this book, Hard to Reject, a lot of revisions in editing, like way more than the first 2. Cause I really started like going kind of epic with the world here.
Yeah.
And my editor was like, okay, well, you need to tie this to this, and this doesn't make sense. And like, it's like, so I ended up deleting 11,000 words out of this book during the editing phase. I mean, I put them all back in, but totally different, completely different. So I stopped working on book 4 until this one was completely ready to be published, because I was like, I'm probably writing stuff that's going to have to be cut because it's not like the way this one. So I've got to go back to book 4 and do a lot of rework to the first, whatever I've written, and then finish it. But I'm hoping I can have that out by the end of the year. I have a couple other projects I've committed to. I'm part of a group of authors who are writing paranormal women's fiction right now. So your heroine's older, over 45. And it's kind of a shared world concept. So like the premise, how all this world began, is all the same for all the books. And then we just kind of write based on that. So I've committed to doing that before the end of the year, and I'm not very far into that one. So I really need to work on that one.
For women's fiction, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be happily ever after if you have a romance, right? But it could.
It is. Ours are all going to be happily ever after.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Really, for us, it's literally just the heroine's 45 or older. That's all.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. We just wanted to write. We just wanted to, like, we're all a little older than 25 ourselves. So we just wanted to write the cool, we can still have fun at our ages.
It'll come out I turn 45 in January next year. So it'll come out just in time for me to yep, this is me.
Exactly. So I've got to get I actually just opened that one this morning and was like, okay, it's time to sit down and work on this one. So I don't know which one's going to come next. I don't know if book 4 of this series or I feel like I need to try to get the paranormal women's fiction out first, and then but the 3.5 is definitely, it's done, or first draft's done. It's going to the editor in April, and it'll come out in either June or July. So that's definitely the next one.
Okay. There's been a little bit of chatter in the, they're still talking about, Jocelyn was laughing over harvesting tears. Mom Maggie says, I live in a drought area. I need the tears from my roses.
I love it.
Oh yes, roses must be watered. I need bugs from Jocelyn's children's books to pollinate my flowers. Got to get the water from someone. Cough, cough. I mean, somewhere. Yeah.
Nice.
And my bugs are definitely up for pollinating. Roses are a favorite.
So. I love it.
All right. Well, we're going to start wrapping up the show. If you would like to tell everyone where they can find you and where they can purchase your books.
My website is actually, if you go to tammylund.com, which Tammy is spelled weird, TAMILUND.com. That is the website for both of my pen names. I actually have a whole lot of paranormal that I wrote under Tammy Lund before I started this pen name. But this pen name has its own section on the website where there's fantasy. I just released a monster romance. I have a mermaid romance as well out there. So there's lots of variety. But yeah, tammylund.com. There you go. Right there.
And then all of her socials, I put the Instagram in the chat too, but there's Facebook, TikTok, BookBub if you guys want to follow. And I had pinned the chat to the website actually at the top of I pinned this.
I saw that on YouTube. Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
So.
Thank you for having me. This was fantastic. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to go grab your book as soon as we're done here because I'm really excited now.
It is epic fantasy, so it's a different time period. I did like around 1100 time period for us. Because I liked it when it was just right at the beginning of the invention of gunpowder. And so I kind of based it off of what we knew about gunpowder. The Chinese had figured out the third ingredient, and it was called Chinese snow. So I called it dwarven snow in my book.
Appropriate.
It was just black guano, but they didn't share that secret with nobody for hundreds of years.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
They had a monopoly on it for a while.
What a cool bit of history to, just, I don't know if you discovered that as you were writing or figured it out or knew it and then started. I love that. I feel like I've learned so much about history just from being an author that I never would have probably been interested in otherwise.
I think I just saw a special on the history of gunpowder while I was developing the ideas, because like my first book is my first trilogy is YA fantasy, and it's Irish mythologies, and it was set 3rd century Ireland during it's one of the last cycles of their myths. and all the dragons but one were dead. And I still got that dragon put into my book. And I thought, you know what? I think I just like dragons. Maybe my next series should be about dragons. And so, and then I was like, I don't want to do fire dragons. That just seems so just natural. People just go, I want to do something different. And one thing I couldn't get over is that with my first trilogy, I did my book covers in green because that is the national color for Ireland is green. That's my least favorite color. I like blue.
Oh
so
my
I
gosh.
thought, ice dragons will be perfect for blue covers.
Yep.
So that's where I went. And then I saw that special on the gunpowder right by the same time I was developing my idea for these books. And I was like, okay, that's when it's good. It's good because ice dragons, firepower, you know, it's a natural antagonist right there. So
I like it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love how the ideas come together. Like that's one of the things that I love best about like these kind of shows is hearing authors talk about how they come up with the ideas for their books. It just fascinates me.
Yeah. And I loved hearing about yours too. And your evolution as an author. It actually surprised me that you said because I feel like the first book in this series could still be kind of paranormal romance.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
So to say that you changed author names, and I'm like, I didn't change my author name when I went from fantasy to romance fantasy.
Well, it was just because honestly, it wasn't because of the writing fantasy. It was, I have I write contemporary also.
Yeah.
And if you look at my Tammy Lund author page on Amazon, it's just it's not cohesive because it's all this contemporary and then paranormal, and it's just such a cluster. I mean, and you know, a lot.
You did talk about the difference in covers too.
Yeah, the covers they don't go together at all because they're totally different genres. And like paranormal readers, I feel, and maybe because I'm a paranormal reader, but like they're more broad. Like I'll read if it's a good story, I'll read it. Well, I don't really like. I really need a happy ending, but other than that, I'm pretty open to what I'll read. But contemporary romance readers, I mean, not all of them, obviously, but a lot of them like stick with the contemporary. They don't want to read anything else. So I was like worried that I felt like I needed to separate them so that it would make it easier on the readers. Yeah. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing when I first started publishing. So my brand under Tammy Lund is not as clear as my brand under TJ Bell. So TJ Bell just gave me a chance to like 100% be paranormal or fantasy. Like there is no question. So that was really what created that's how I ended up with two different. I fought it forever because I was like, how in the hell am I going to manage two completely different platforms?
That was my thought. That's the only reason why I had to do it.
It's not that bad, actually. I was worried it would. That's why I kept the website all one, because I was like, I'm not going to, because I update my own website. Like I don't pay someone to do it. And so I was like, I can't manage two websites. So there were some things that I did. Like I only have the one TikTok for the TJ Bell, and that's only because fantasy romance is so huge on TikTok. Yeah. So I was like, and I fought TikTok too, because I'm not into TikTok. And I was like, I got to get on TikTok because fantasy readers are on TikTok, but I don't have anything on there about contemporary. And like Instagram was pretty easy because it's easy to switch back and forth. Like you literally just click the button twice, your little icon, and it flips back and forth between the pages. So it's all one account. So it's actually really easy to manage two accounts on TikTok.
Actually, or that's on TikTok, you said? No,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Instagram.
Okay. Because I have two accounts now because I just opened one for the conference, Author Tube Writing Conference. And I was like having trouble with it. Like, how do I get to the other one again?
Yeah, you should be able to. If it's all under your own account, like your Meta account, I guess it's called, you should be able to click your picture icon in it. Just click it twice and it flips to the other page.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's super. I think I figured it out accidentally too, and it's a life changer because it makes it so much easier to bounce back and forth between them. Yeah. And and Facebook, I'm just always on Facebook, to be honest. So Facebook was actually easy too because I have a whole bunch of different pages that I admin for. So I was like, what's one more? But like I have 2 newsletters now, but I started paying someone to do it because it's just. So I don't like doing the newsletter. I mean, I like newsletters. I don't like creating it. So I finally paid someone to do that. So, but I have 2 totally separate newsletters. It is a little bit more work, but I feel like it's easier to find readers when the brand is there. You know, TJ Bell is very clear what she writes, whereas Tammy Lund is like, okay, I know you write romance, but there's a million different tropes. What kind of romance do you write? So the second time was a chance to do it right.
There you go. I would say you can always start over, because I branded myself as a YA fantasy author with the whole Irish theme and Celtic themed. And I thought, when I started writing fantasy romance, I was like, I really like this. I think this is where I'm going to stay. I don't think I'm going to go back to the fantasy, just straight fantasy. So, and I was able to rebrand it with the dragon and, everything. So I was like, I love this so much better. And it came so much easier rebranding it.
Yep.
Because of what I liked it a lot. I mean, I like the Celtic mythology, but.
And that, you know what, you're totally right. Like, if you love it, it does make it so much easier to manage it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mom Maggie says, I like older heroines.
Me too. I feel I can relate to them clearly.
Jocelyn says, thanks for the stream. It was lots of fun. Thanks
you for hanging out with us.
Oh, thank you, Mom Maggie.
You are a good interviewer. That's very true.
I had a little bit of experience. I'm not into TikTok at all, but my middle and youngest want me to start a book talk account. Yeah, I think your works could do well there, because she's got mostly fantasy and sci-fi, but there's some romances involved. So those three are, all three of them are big on TikTok right now. Oh my gosh, my daughter found me on what is she? Oh, she found me on TikTok, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I want this tie. I didn't even tell her I was on it, because I figured she'd, I mean, she's a freshman in college now, but she's still like, oh my God, Mom, we are not supposed to like the same things. Oh no, I don't have any daughters, so I don't have to deal with that. But although with my YouTube channel, my oldest son, he's 22 now, and he followed me at first. Maybe he still follows me, I don't know, but I do know, like, for the first 6 months, hey Mom, you did better on that one. I was like,
weirdly, like, that compliment is like the best compliment ever.
It was like I knew he subscribed to me, but I figured he just did it to give me one of my first subscribers.
Yeah.
And so I didn't think he was actually watching my content. But
I know my daughter's actually coming home tomorrow for spring break, and I'm gonna be like, so are you looking at my like what do you think about my TikTok? What advice do you have? Because you are the TikTok
guru.
Yeah.
Yep.
That age group.
Yep. Well, thank you so much, Tammy, for coming on the show. And thank you to everyone who showed up in the chat, and thank you for the conversation and joining us today. I had to change. we had an author tomorrow who was going to come on, but her hubby got her some tickets to a show for Valentine's Day, so she had to cancel.
Nice.
So, which I totally understand. That's all awesome stuff there. So the next time I'll have an author on is going to be on Sunday, and that is with, which I was super excited because I love her books, is Emma Allison, or Allison Faye, 2 different pen names that she goes by. And I think, oh no, I thought maybe she might be at that conference, but I don't remember seeing her. That is on Sunday at 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern. And that will do it. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.